All right, good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 4 o'clock, so I will call the Wednesday, May 21st, 2025 meeting of the Capital Area Transportation Authority Board of Directors to order and ask our secretary to please call the roll.
Here. 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 Here.
Here.
Here.
A quorum is present. Just one quick logistical reminder for board members in order to make sure that our friends on Zoom who might be watching can hear us, and also for folks in the room, you do have microphones in front of you. Please remember to switch them on and grab a mic if you're recognized to speak during the meeting. Our first item on the agenda is public comments on agenda items. This is the time we set aside during each of our meetings to hear comments from the public on any matter on our agenda tonight. We would ask that you please consider filling out a blue card to assist our secretary and that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will have a timer to assist you in that endeavor. I will call folks in the order in which I've had cards submitted in advance and then ask if there is anyone else who wishes to offer public comment at this first opportunity on agenda items. I have had one card submitted in advance, and that is from Daniel Black. Mr. Black, and can we? Yes, please. Is there a, yep.
I love the acoustics in this room. Whoa. I love the accessibility into this room. Yet I'm challenged by the accessibility and the fire safety at the CTC on the north end. A couple weeks ago, I found the north end handicap door opener locked and resolved that by addressing the fire inspector, and he quickly resolved that issue within 20 to 30 minutes of reporting it. Yet it still remains unrepaired. It's wide open during the day because the fire marshal said, don't lock it. Hopefully, the speed with which it's fixed is not indicative of the speed of critical safety repairs on the buses. Speaking of repairs on the buses, on a second issue, I've caught a sense of frustration with the drivers when it comes to writing up needed repairs. Why not make it easy for everybody and allow the drivers to text the mechanics a quick pick and a description of the issue? Problem solved. And leaving on a final note, remember, board members, eat that microphone for the sake of the listeners at home and for the sake of the hearing impaired. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else present who wishes to offer public comment at this first opportunity on agenda items? Seeing no one come forward, then we'll proceed with our agenda, beginning with chair's comments. My only piece of business this evening is to note that two of our colleagues, Derek and Kelly, have asked to be excused from tonight's meeting. So I would ask for a motion to excuse those absences. Moved by Phil, seconded by Jack. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. The absences are excused. And I would note also we have one of our colleagues, Shanna, who should be joining us by Zoom this evening. She is unable to be here in person. Brad, that brings us to our Chief Executive Officer's report. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hello, board members and members of the public. The first thing I would like to do is, as you are aware, but bring to your attention, the loss of two drivers, one from Transdev and one from CATA over the last month since we last met. Tragic accident which took Tondi Tripp, and I see our general manager in the crowd, and we've been texting back and forth, and my compliments to you under the very difficult situation of trying to keep spirits high over there. We've all felt it, and we stand with you, and it was a tragic accident. The following week, we lost longtime driver Brandon Brad Stevens, 21-year veteran. Not much to say except we were going to feel his loss, and anytime you have losses like this, your heart goes out, and we have appropriately brought in grief counselors and kept the conversation going. And you want to say something encouraging, and it's very difficult at times. So I wanted to start off my report with kind of that somber news, and that we will continue to do what we can to support the families on both sides and keep you abreast of arrangements as they are brought to our attention. Next, as over the past couple of years, CATA has participated in the Juneteenth celebration week. We are in a couple of parades, and we are sponsoring a couple of those activities. The primary one being the African American Parade in Lansing, and the Freedom Festival, which is on June 21st, 11 a.m. Saturday, Sexton High School. We will have a decorated bus, and we will have a number of employees and family members marching in that parade. And it was a lot of fun last year. So I invite you to participate if you're available. Again, that is June 21, 11 a.m. at Sexton High School. Number 3, ongoing discussions with Delta Township. You may recall that we were kind of aiming for a presentation to the township. It was slated for this past Monday. We've postponed that for a few weeks to do some polling with Delta Township after the public safety millage went down, and we're just trying to organize a little better before we go in and have that conversation with Delta about a potential millage moving forward. A lot of conversations going on in Delta right now. I will keep you abreast of that, but didn't want that date to come and go and say, what are we doing? And finally, speaking of dates coming and going, the date coming up on the calendar per policy is June 30, and that is when you have your budget delivered to you from my office. We have had some very robust conversations with staff led by Jim, and assisted with the departments with Andrew pulling them in. It's a very different year. If you will recall, back in January during our retreat, we decided, and by direction of this board, we gave Jim the charge to tap the brakes and kind of stay even with this year's budget, but prepare for a potential shortfall the following year. And I bring this to you as a reminder so that you know that not only are we on track for that, but we need to keep the conversation going, because what we have found both at the state and federal level is that we have not seen a corrective measures of either kind when it comes to revenue. And so beginning in September, we will be facing about $1 million a month shortfall, which we have a lot of cash and invested money saved up through COVID funds and being fiscally responsible over the last couple of years. But that burns fast. And so that was 5 months ago. So we're almost half a year through. So we're beginning immediately after this budget to prepare for the retreat in January, where we would be facing about a $10 million pullback. That's significant, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't want to spring this on you. I want to remind you, as we have this budget, that we're looking at things like not adding any additional administrative staff and possibly reducing some administrative staff and beginning to soften that curve, if you will, before we go into the fall, when we have to really look at significant cuts 6-8 months from now. May change, but we will have options for you. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, Jim and I appreciate Jim's due diligence on this. He's the right person to be sitting in that chair watching the books We're not going too far without Jim pulling the alarm. And Jim is saying we need to have some discussions at the board level, staff level, and public level about what's coming in the next 6, 8 months. How'd I do, Jim? Thank you. That's my report, sir.
Thank you, Brad. Questions or comments for Brad on his report? Go ahead, Chelsea.
Could you just state what the expected shortfall was at per month in January?
Yeah. Starting in September, in this budget, we believe it's going to be about $1 million a month.
Go ahead, Ed.
Village failure, county today, countywide failure, or was it a Delta Township failure?
My understanding is that it was a countywide rejection, if you will. Yes. And not to continue on answering past what you asked, but out of interest, what we have talked about is to do a Delta Township only millage. Depending upon who you ask strategy wise, whether we'd be successful, that's why we're just going and doing a poll right now, and we're going to be bringing that information back in the next couple of weeks, and I will make sure you're aware of that.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Chelsea.
With Delta Township, have you been working at all with LEAP, and just thinking about a strategy in that way, or are they assisting at all? I'm not sure if they're represented by LEAP, I guess. I just assumed.
That is a very loaded question. So the answer is yes. We are at the LEAP table every week talking to them. There's a lot of economic development that goes into Delta Township. I have presented to a CEO coordinating group, which includes LEAP and the chamber and the airport, and everybody is ready to provide their support or have a broader discussion about how these silos connect if Delta moves forward. But we haven't opened the barn and let the horses out yet.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Steve.
I just want to share that I attended a hearing of the Transportation Appropriations Subcommittee at lunchtime today, where presentations were made by both the MPTA and Transportation Riders United, lobbying that committee fairly effectively to take action to address and this is a statewide shortfall. So just wanted to share that information.
Thanks, Steve. Other questions or comments? Go ahead, Phil.
I attended the Lansing Chamber Economic Summit yesterday, and they gave their 5-year report card on the area, and they are finding that we've reversed some numbers that were down. And the generation we're doing the best with right now is Gen Z, which are classic, perfect cat riders as well. And they're really focused on keeping them here. We may have lost the millennials, my kids, and Gen X, but the Gen Zs are still here, and we need to do our best to keep them here. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Other questions or comments? I guess a couple of quick things. If folks are interested in reading the report that Phil's making reference to, you can find transit mentioned on page 42. So if you'd like to read what the report said, at least it made it into there in passing. I think two things worth noting, Brad, and if you want to add to this to help clarify for the board in regards to Ed's question about the passage of the millage. The millage failed countywide, but it passed in Delta Township, which is part of our conversation with the township. So that wasn't enough to overcome the out-county results, but the millage in question passed in Delta Township. Can you just remind the board, Brad, though, before we conclude your report, or bring them up to date on some of the conversations you've been having with Delta Township folks about how this relates to the impending expiration of your arrangement with E-Tran to serve as their CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, very appropriate to look at the schedule coming up. For those of you that weren't here, and as review for those of you that approved this, back in the fall of 2022, we made an arrangement with Eaton County to allow me as an individual to sign a contract with E-Tran. So there were two different agreements there. There was an interlocal agreement with Eaton County, which serves as the overall agency, if you will, for the interlocal of the transit agency. I won't get into the ins and outs of the differences. We're under Act 55. Clinton's under 196. They're under interlocal agreement. You're going to need a pad of paper and a pencil, and we start drawing XY coordinates, and X's and Y's, and I'll show you how this works. The point is that Eaton County is the authority over E-Tran's board and assign that. So I began in 22 on a 3-year contract. That contract comes to the end in September of this year. Each meeting that I attend over at E-Tran, and frankly, for those of you that don't know, I am over there pretty much every day. I was over there this morning and sign things and meet with staff and so forth. That comes to an end in September, and so to not pull the rug out, we've been very purposeful in how we were going to approach this, leading to a new revenue source, which is essentially required by CATA to move forward on this. We went and got state money and grant money to put the service on the street, with the Route 3 extension, the connectors, and really built a system over there to prove the effectiveness of it. We did a study which showed that the public wants this service. And we even did a subsequent rider study, which showed that at least 50% of the riders on the Route 3 alone are using this for employment purposes. But they're not in the authority, and Delta pays 0.25 as part of the Eaton County millage, which is 11 times, as I calculate it, different from the CATA millage. So we have a gap there that we needed to fill. So in the past, it's been all or nothing, pay the 3 mills, join the authority, or you don't get. So we created this system from Eaton County and Delta to really, in a grassroots way, organically create the system that they want, have the riders and the community kind of design this, offer through the grant and some assistance on my side and staff the ability to really get up to speed and understand some of the state grants, federal grants, and compete, if you will. And we have now arrived at showtime. And so the last thing that we're trying to do is provide Delta Township's trustees with some reassurance that a millage could pass in November. We were going to go in this past Monday. What that would then lead to, upon a successful, yes, let's put the millage language on the November ballot, it would lead to a discussion between our board chair, their board chair, Eaton County, Commissioner Barber, who is the ex officio member on CATA from Eaton County, in extending or renewing those agreements for a period of time. If we're going to November, we would have to see what the positive vote was or negative vote. Assuming that goes forward, then we would renegotiate that and move forward with potentially even a merger with E-Tran. These things were in the discussion. There was a regional coordination plan that was presented to you last year that was written by E-Tran staff and consultants, which effectively said everything that I just said, and it was the steps in leading toward this outcome. There's a lot of uncertainty in Delta right now with the public service millage. We have maintained that we believe it would pass, especially in Delta, but the decision is Delta Townships to put it on the November ballot. That's kind of the latest. To get on the November ballot, we kind of need Delta to pass this by June 16 to get through the state process and get it on the ballot. Am I going the right direction, sir? This past week, last week in my board meeting with E-Tran, there was a little uncertainty and concern about where we go from here, and was asked what the path forward was if this did not take place. And my response was, I don't have a path. In fact, I've asked for that board to pull their personnel committee together because at this point, I will not be in a position to extend my contract past the end of September. So I don't have an alternative for you at this point. I have a lot of effort, hope. We're going to be doing a lot of conversations. Both Lolo and Kai, the planning manager, have part of their hours who have been put forward with me to help on the public relations side. Your inquiry about, do we have our act together out there essentially and ready to go? We're ready to go, but we need Delta to put it on the ballot first.
Thank you, Brad. So, because I don't expect everyone to have committed every piece of that information that was just given to you to memory, I think the key takeaway and why I wanted Brad to go through some of the additional background material here is that we have extended every opportunity and every courtesy to our friends in Eaton County and Delta Township and E-Tran to try and make this work, and continue to offer every resource that we have at our disposal to try and get this bus into the garage, as it were. But also, Brad has been very clear with them that there is a timeline here. The current arrangement is not sustainable for us in the long run, and that we need to be straightforward with them about it. So that's a lot of information. Brad will keep us surprised, but I wanted folks to make sure, thinking back to when we first approved this agreement and embarked on this endeavor, that we have not moved off from our approach of, again, wanting to be courteous and supportive and give them every opportunity, but recognizing that there is an expiration date on our ability to continue the current interim arrangement. So, all right. Thank you, Brad. With that, then, we'll move to our proposed consent agenda, which includes 5 items for the board's consideration this evening. Those are the approval of the minutes of the April 2025 board meeting, the treasurer's report from March 2025, the purchase of up to 9 low-floor minivans, the management negotiation team, and a subrecipient agreement with Retired and Senior Volunteers Program and the Lansing Housing Commission. Does any member of the board desire to have any of these items removed from the consent agenda to our discussion agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Moved by Steve. Is there a second? Seconded by Eric. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. The consent agenda is approved. At the risk of slightly undermining the purpose of a consent agenda, I know our policy committee chair is on Zoom, and she had requested earlier that Brad provide just a brief bit of information on the item we just approved related to low floor minivans, just bringing the board up to speed about how this fits in with our sustainability goals and why the vehicles that are being procured here are not zero emission vehicles. So to honor that request, Brad, do you want to give that brief bit of information before we move forward?
Yes, and simply put, there are so many vehicle types, manufacturers, supply chain that they're hard to keep track of. The board has asked us to move toward zero emissions by 2035, and we are robustly going and pursuing that. We have multiple vehicle types that have been ordered, which are exclusively electric, which have not only been in production, but we're hoping to take delivery of some of those as early as next month, including large bus. They also include vans. This particular model of van does not have an electric model in it, or a zero emission model, if you will, and it is really a production issue. And so when some of these vehicles are made available, we're kind of fighting for the supply right now, whether it's unleaded or electric. And so the simple answer is that we have electric vans that are about to be delivered, and we'll be testing them. But we still need to supply and turn over the fleet when we have the ability to do so. So the number of electrics are going up, are being delivered, are along a trajectory here, but it's not an overnight process.
Thank you, Brad. Speaking of our policy chair, the next item on our agenda is our action items, which include 2 items for the board's consideration this evening, beginning with policy number 402, the formulation of board policies and administrative procedures. Do we have Shanna available on the
I'm
Zoom?
here.
Oh, look
I'm
at
here if
that.
you can hear me.
We can hear you. Can you hear us all right, Shanna?
I can, yeah, and I'll just apologize that I have a very scratchy throat. So I appreciate me. We do have these 2 policies. The first one we discussed with the board last meeting as our first reading, and it is actually a policy to change that procedure to no longer require 2 readings of board policy changes. So I am happy to answer questions, or somebody with a less scratchy voice on our policy committee can, if anybody has questions. And then the second one is it relates to the production and dissemination of our annual, excuse me, our annual financials and report to the board and community members. And I believe we've already talked with the board a little bit about this policy as well, but the policy committee has met and discussed and looked at red line views and is in support of the versions we have in front of you.
Thanks, Shanna. So let's start with policy 402, formulation of board policies and administrative procedures. Any additional comments from staff on this item, Brad? Formulation of procedures.
No, sir.
All right. Any questions from board members? Again, we did have the opportunity to discuss this at a prior meeting. Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve policy 402 as presented? Moved by Phil. Is there a second? Seconded by Jack. Any discussion? Seeing none, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approving policy 402 as presented, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. The policy is approved, which brings us to policy 203 regarding fiscal year and annual reports. Shanna, did you have any additional comments on this? I know you rightly noted we previously had some brief board discussion on this, but was there anything you wanted to add?
I don't, excuse me, I don't think so. Other than just to note that because of the policy we just passed, this will be our first and only reading of this policy change.
I was going to say, which for people who've been on the board for a while is extremely exciting. Brad, any additional comments from staff?
No, sir.
Questions on this policy from members of the board or comments? Go ahead, Steve.
This just appears to be cleaning up and not a significant change in policy or procedure. So I'm glad to support this.
Could we construe that as a motion to approve it?
Yes.
It's been moved by Steve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor of approving the policy signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries. The policy is approved. I know people were chuckling and you think it's funny, but the amount of time that we've spent trying to update this so that we could take quicker action on these policies has been quite some time. So let me just conclude this section of our agenda by thanking Shanna and the other members of the policy committee for their work on these 2 items and the board's knowledge that there is a whole schedule of other policies yet to be reviewed with recommendations made by that committee, which we will then be able to dispose of more quickly. So Shanna, thank you to you and the committee.
Absolutely.
In half the time. That's right. All right. That brings us to old business. There is no noticed old business to come before the board this evening. Likewise, new business, which brings us to our second and final public comment opportunity. This is the time we set aside during each of our meetings to take comments from the public on any item related to CATA and its operations. I'd make the same requests. Please consider filling out a blue card to assist our secretary and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will have a timer to assist you with that. I will call folks in the order in which I've received blue cards and then ask if there's anyone else who wishes to offer public comment at this second and final opportunity this evening. let's begin again with Daniel Black. And could we have staff assist with getting the microphone over? Oh, you'll pass? All right. Thank you, Mr. Black. Krista Abdullah is our next commenter. Krista. And can we have, thank you, Jim.
Hello. I am a regular spec tram rider. I am on the bus probably every day, about 5 times a day. The newer buses, I believe they're called ADL tablet, are very low. And the drivers always have to look down to see like it shows the location or how they're going. And I don't think that's very safe. And I've asked drivers if they've asked to have it moved, like on the older bus, it's up high, but on the new one, it's way down. And I don't know if that's something that CATA can fix so that I don't like the idea of riding down the street and they keep looking down. It's worse than being on a phone, I think, than texting. So that's just a request that hopefully you guys will honor.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who wishes to offer public comment at this second and final opportunity this evening? Commissioner Grebner.
Have I got the mic on this time?
You do.
All
You
right.
do.
In the past, in a previous world, I used to do like 3-minute harangues at the administration, proposing all sorts of reforms, and I've stopped doing that pretty much because Brad is like working on so many things now that I just feel like anything that I wanted to quibble about would be way down the list of priorities. So this is another way of saying I'm actually happy with the way things are going. But I do want to just throw out an idea that we should start thinking about. AI has already sort of poked its nose into the tent, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen big, and it's going to really revolutionize American life. And there are things that people are talking about now that in 2 years will be easy to do, and in 5 years, everybody will be doing them. I'm not proposing a specific move, but I think that CATA should start maybe at the policy committee or the service innovation committee or someplace actually talking to our collective bargaining partners and looking around at what is going on. I really think the world is going to change in tremendous ways, and we probably should have policies which we have at least thought about before they become necessary to implement. We should, we should get out, if it's possible, a little bit ahead rather than a little bit behind events. I mean, I could sketch them out, but let's just say that every single job at CATA, every single contact with the public is likely to be tremendously transformed within 5 years. So that's all.
Thanks for your comment, Mark. Is there anyone else who wishes to offer public comment at this second and final opportunity? Go ahead, Phil.
On behalf of the 45,000 residents of Meridian Township, I want to thank CATA for being sponsors for our Celebrate Meridian Festival on June 28th and our Pride Festival on May 31st, as well as our Juneteenth celebration. The first time CATA has been a sponsor for all 3 of these events, and we're really glad to have you. And you'll see the CATA logo everywhere in Meridian Township this summer. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lolo.
Thank you, Phil. Any other individuals who wish to offer public comment at this second and final opportunity? All right, seeing none, then just a quick explanatory note here. We do have one additional item on our agenda tonight, and that is a request to move into closed session for the purpose of discussing strategy in connection with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement. A logistical note for those in the room and who may be watching on Zoom. The board, when this motion is approved to move into closed session, will do so and conduct that conversation. There will be no further business conducted this meeting, so we will return to open session at the conclusion of that closed session only for the purpose of adjourning this evening's meeting. So I haven't looked outside to see what the weather conditions are, but there is no reason to hang outside and get wet waiting to come back in to hear more activity, because there won't be any. At the end of this meeting, we will just adjourn. So with that explanation, I will ask for a motion in a second, and then we'll do our roll call, and then we'll give folks an opportunity to move from the meeting room before we begin our closed session. So let me ask, is there a motion to move into closed session for the stated purpose? Moved by Phil, seconded by Jack. Will our secretary please call the roll on this motion to move into closed session for discussion of strategy in connection with a collective bargaining agreement?
Yes.
Yes. That motion having achieved the requisite 2/3 majority, we will take a brief pause here in order to allow members of the public and non-essential staff to leave the meeting room before we proceed with our closed session. And again, we will come back only for the purposes of adjourning our meeting. So for those who are departing, thank you for joining us tonight.